Welcome back to the Cast and Cost cEDH podcast. I'm Blake.
I'm Chase, and today we're looking at the top 16 from the Lotus Lattenkamp 2025. So, Jinx.
Yeah.
So, today we're going to be looking at the top 16 from a event that took place this weekend that had 132 people at it. Yeah. Now, before we even started diving into what this event was, something that kind of stands out right away is that this took place in Germany.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of cool. But yeah, there was a 132 person event in Hamburg-Nord, Deutschland, and we're just gonna be a couple guys from Kentucky, probably butchering a lot of these names as we go through and read this. But I think that we also saw some pretty interesting things that stood out as we were trying to gather more information on this.
Yeah, we were going through, we were looking at the list, and I kept noticing that like some of the decks were like you had people that made top 16 that were like 2 wins, 3 losses, no draws. And then there were people that got cut from top 16 that had like 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw.
Which would have been 11 points typically from what our experience is.
So technically the people with 11 points would have jumped them, but we actually went and looked at the tournament standings, and it looks like they were doing points a little differently. You weren't getting points for a draw in this event. So it looked like it was just based solely off your points. And then if you had a tie for points, they did off of like your opponent win percentage. So draws weren't a factor in this event, which was like really interesting. So there was a lot of people that had draws that actually didn't even make it into top cut.
Right. And just saw the standings that you can see from what was reported on Top Deck itself. There were a ton of people that tied for basically 9th place.
Yeah.
And just whatever from there, like, you know, the ton of people gained 10 points, and it was just based off whatever the win percentage was after that. So
yeah, I kind of like this though. I think that I find that very interesting because it really does, like, when you looked at the results, there weren't that many draws, so people were truly playing for the win.
Yeah,
and if you didn't get there, you didn't get there.
Right.
But yeah, so I just find that like really, really, really fascinating. That's really cool.
Yep. So with that being said, let's look at our 16th place. So starting in 16th place, and again, we're simple. We're from Kentucky. We're probably going to butcher some of these names, especially if they're European German names. Forgive me. I'm going to say me because Blake's going to make me say it. But in 16th place, I'm going to say that we have Eve Prawl. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you have to pronounce the names.
On Thrasios Vile Smasher with a record of 2 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw.
So, like, looking at the decks, it looks like Top Deck has switched over to basically all of the cards being on Top Deck now. So, when we are reviewing these decks, we're going to be reviewing them from topdeck.gg.
Unless it starts fucking up again like it did last week, and then I'm going to make Blake actually put them into Moxfield, and we'll review them that way, just to make it a little easier on him and our simple minds.
Absolutely. So what is there anything that you're noticing like right off the bat that's standing out in this list?
This from what I can tell, this looks like a sans white list that I would run if I was running this partner pairing.
Yeah.
You know, with this deck in particular, you don't see it placing on the top, but I think it's in great colors being sans white. It's just trying to go a little bit faster maybe and ramp things out. Everyone knows what Thrasios does. Vile Smasher, it kind of plays like how Silas does at times, where it's mostly just there for the colors.
Yeah.
So it's cool seeing this, I think, make a top 16 appearance.
Yeah. And it literally, I mean, it's just running the infinite mana, like Thrasios stuff, just without, like, again, like you said, your white cards, like, just opting to cut some of the silence packages, maybe a little more mana acceleration with like the red, if you know, versus something that you would see in like TNT, or like a Dog Thras. Like, so I mean, it just looks, like I said, it just looks like a typical list. There's really nothing that stands out. It looks like just honestly like a good card pile.
Yeah.
Like they're choosing to run like Carpet, Remora, Necro, Breach, Rhystic. land package looks fine. I'm honestly just trying to see if they're playing. I'm not. Yep, they're on Starting Town, which is cool.
Yeah. I think the only cards that truly kind of stand out to me, but they still make sense, and I've seen these before. I've seen at least one of them before in a list like this. If you look at the instant sorceries, the Summoner's Pact, I think is interesting. But I mean, if you are literally just using it to try and get out the Devoted Druid or the Seaborn Muse, like those are the two clear targets for it. And then the Manamorphose. I kind of like it here. Like if you're able to run it and do some color fixing while also drawing a card in the process, like you're able to kind of take more advantage of something like the Imperial Seal, where you have a top deck tutor, or let's see, either Imperial Seal or where's Vamp Tutor? Vamp Tutor's in there, so like you those in addition to like something like I don't know if Born Upon the Wind is in, there it is. Like those are two cards you can kind of have in here in order to take advantage more specifically of the top deck, and be able to do some stuff from there. No One Ring.
Yeah, that was something I was about to point out. So no One Ring, which probably means no Manamo.
But I mean, with it still being like core Grixis shell, I mean, we're on the Breach stuff. We're on the Thossas, things you would come to expect from that, just with some additional things that the green provides, like the Culling Ritual is kind of like a pseudo board wipe, and then the Nature's Rhythm to get out any of those pieces. I think that whenever I'm looking at a list like this, I understand why it's probably not included, because it's typically the third out of the three ways of getting there. It's the one that gets the cut, but not seeing a Machine God's Effigy. As a way of like being able to do more of the Devoted Druid stuff, I think is kind of interesting. And then I just noticed this too. There's no Kennen.
That's what I was gonna say. There's no Kennen Basalt, which is interesting. I think that it just makes sense though. I feel like a lot of these lists they tend to fill their deck with so many combo pieces.
Right.
Whereas I feel like this one, because you're in green, you have access to all the best like creature tutors and things like that. So I mean, maybe it just makes sense to run the creature combo, like the Devoted Druid Hazel, and just kind of go really heavy into that plan.
Right.
But I still think that the list looks cool. I mean, I really don't have anything else to add on it. I think that it just looks like a typical...
I would say another notable exclude is Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah.
Like that's typically what you would see with a list like this, trying to, get Devoted into the graveyard, or like pitch whatever creatures in hand, be able to get Devoted, do it again, get Hazels, and then on your turn, like do the Hazels thing. But maybe that's just because for a green deck, they're on only 15 creatures. So actually being able to hit your creatures to turn on the survival and make it more effective might be hard to do in this list.
That's a good point. But yeah, I mean, list looks cool. Like I said, it just looks like what I would think a Thrasios Bile Smasher list would look like.
So congrats, Eve, on 16th place.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right. In 15th place, I'm going to say that his name is Giannis Bornman. I'm going to say Giannis.
Yeah.
I think that it's either Giannis or it's Jonas.
I think it's Giannis. That sounds more Deutschland.
Okay. Again, we're just simple people from Kentucky. But in 15th place, we have Giannis on Rafine, Scheming Seer, with 2 wins, 4 losses, and 0 draws.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. Again, like, this is a card that I've been noticing has been getting cut more and more, but like Dothy, which I guess like in this list, it makes total sense. Like it has Shadow, so being able to like put it in there. They're on like Lavinia.
This is interesting.
Which card are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the creatures. Like we haven't gotten into anything else just yet, but like it's like super stacksy.
Yeah,
already. Like just super stacksy. A lot of creatures. Like low curb. Looks like the biggest thing that I'm seeing in the curb is probably Rev Tithe Extractor.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Is Grazilax, isn't that some kind of combo piece?
I believe so. It was in one of the other Rafine lists that we had covered earlier in the year, so I know that it's definitely like it's good in this list, it looks like. But yeah, you are right. This is like pretty stacksy. I do like the inclusion. Sorry. I do like the inclusion of like the Ocelot Pride. I think that's pretty cool. Sarah Ascendant. I feel like Sarah Ascendant doesn't show up in very many lists
Mm-mm.
anymore, but like in this, like I get same thing. It just makes total sense.
Right.
Um, the I don't know how you say this.
What? Enoch.
Anok.
Yeah.
Air attack with a creature and or your commander for each opponent. Create a 1/1 red goblin token that's tapped to attack that player. Sack it. The game. Oh, creature tokens you control gain indestructible until end of turn. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to run a lot of these like low to the ground creatures and try to get in there for damage. It's running Timna in the 99, which is interesting. Labman is here. Luris, which if I see Luris, I typically look to see if there's like a displacer kitten, but I'm not seeing that. I already said that Rev was the highest CMC thing. As far as like maybe having something to be able to blink Luris and then like get more things out of the graveyard, but I think it's just more so there as a value piece than anything else is what it kind of feels like with this. Ton of tutors, all the black tutors that you can pretty much run.
Yep.
It seems. Now, with it being such low CMC, there's no ad-nauseam.
Yeah, I just think that makes sense. I feel like this type of a deck is not something where you're just trying to like convert a win out of nowhere, and I feel like stuff like ad nauseum requires you to like play it and then convert right then. And also like in Esper, you're probably not making a ton of mana, so I think that that's probably just like a safe include. Honestly, I think it. I don't know that this is right either, but in a list like this, it may even make more sense to play something like Pier. But I mean, I play ad nauseum. There's people that cut ad nause. I don't feel like I can in a list like Xur just because you have other ways to like combo with it in the command zone.
Yeah.
But in a lot of Esper lists, I think that that's totally fine.
I think there's a couple cards in that I'm not seeing as far as creatures go that when I look at a list like this, I'm just like, that feels like it should be in here. One of them was Delny. I feel like in being able to double down on some of your triggers, and then
also on like your connive triggers and stuff.
Yeah, and be able to put more counters on things and stuff like that. There was another card, and it may not have been a creature. There was another card I was thinking of that isn't a creature that I felt like would make a lot of sense to see in the list is Chain of Vapor.
Yeah,
because it's not. I didn't see it in the 99 for this, but whenever you're running Archivist, Fairy Mastermind, Polywog Prodigy, like things like that, some of those force draw things. I mean, again, that's probably why the Labman is here. And even last week we saw a bunch of lists like on Labman, too. But like when you have these engines here that force the player to draw, sometimes trying to resolve that Thassa's Oracle for yourself and Esper Sentinel. I just saw it on yours, but that can be scary trying to resolve that with a demonic consultation, and then you're just kind of shit out of luck if someone does make you draw a card.
I feel like that this deck has the opportunity to like just absolutely beat face at times, especially with things like Brina and other stuff. But I mean, like I said, it's
I don't know, definitely interesting. Not one you see a whole lot of with Rafine either in like a top 16.
Yeah, they're not on Necro or anything like that.
No, but they're on the Teferi's Ageless. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have nothing else on that one. So congrats to Giannis on 15th place there.
Or Jonas. No,
or Jonas. Yeah. All right. In 14th place, I'm going to say Aiz Arn Hoffman. At least I can pronounce Hoffman. In 14th place on Grenzo Dungeon Warden with 2 wins and 4 losses. Let's take a look at this Grenzo list. I haven't seen a whole lot of Grenzo, so I mean, obviously we're in Rakdos colors. I feel like we're trying to do, like I see the Carrion Feeder and the Viscera Seer and things like that.
Yeah.
So it seems like a bunch of graveyard shenanigan type things. I mean, we're not even on Breach.
Really?
Yeah, this list is 64 creatures, 1 sorcery, which is Dread Return, and 9 artifacts with 25 lands. What are they doing? I did at least see this. I can tell you this from combos that I do know. Like, they're probably they have the War and Soul Trader, they have the Viscera Seer, they have Carrion Feeder. They're probably doing something that allows them to drain out the table. If I had to guess, I just don't know what's going to enable that to happen. But I also, and they have the Grim Hireling, so that we have a lot of these black combo pieces that we're used to seeing with the, like trying to do those synergies.
Yeah.
But we're also on Kiki Jiki and Zayla's conscripts, and that together is infinite creature tokens swing out.
Well, they're on other stuff too. They're on Ruthless Technomancer, which is really, really good. That's gonna net you a ton of treasures. Are they on the Goblin, like the sticker Goblin?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, they are on the
Oh, yeah.
sticker Goblin.
Yeah, they're on the Skirk Prospector. They're on the Diamond Line.
They're on Goblin Engineer.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that definitely makes sense. What it looks like they're doing is they're just making a ton of mana. They have the Engineer and like probably other ways to recur stuff. There's this Heartstone, which makes Grinzo's ability only cost 1 mana, and then they have the Ashnod's Altar to sack creatures to make colorless mana. So I'm guessing what happens is you literally just get through your whole deck. You'll eventually put out every creature in your deck onto the graveyard, or into the graveyard, and then eventually onto the battlefield, result in like Kiki Jiki and like some other crazy combo.
Well, it's gonna be the
Zealous.
The Zealous.
Yeah.
So I guess buff Grenzo up as much as you can, or at least you have these pieces that are creatures like the Priest of Urbrass, the Palladium Mirror, this overeager apprentice, like creatures that are going to make you mana. So that way you're just like continuing to pitch things, make Grenzo real big, be able to get things from the bottom.
Yeah, they're on Sticker Goblin. Everything in this deck, honestly, just looks like ways to net a ton of mana. Like, you could technically do a Sticker Goblin combo there with... I'm trying to look at other stuff. Crime Novelist is obviously a really, really good one. Yeah, it just looks like that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just make a ton of mana. Go ahead and like filter through your entire deck. That's probably why they're on so many creatures. The sack outlets like the Carrion Feeder and other stuff, ways to, I'm guessing, like recur stuff. There's probably some Ruthless Technomancer line. There's Warren Soul Trader, so I'm gonna take a guess that there's a line there. They're playing the Burricos in the 99, which is really cool. So some card draw. This is just cool. I've never seen
anything like those.
This is sick. I mean, I've seen a Grenzo deck, but I've not seen one that's like this hard
into the Grenzo play.
Yeah, so this is very dope.
Yeah.
This is cool.
He tried to go fast as fuck, boy.
Fuck yeah. We might put this together just for shits and giggles. Yeah, dude, honestly, congrats.
Oh, yeah.
This is sick.
This was definitely a neat list. So, yeah, congrats on 14th place.
What happened, my friend?
All right. In 13th place, we have Martin Burkett Smith. I'm going to assume that's how it is. On Inala, with 2 wins and 4 losses. So let's take a look at this Inala list, because this is one that we don't see pop up too often.
I was thinking there was some like really cool Ruthless Technomancer like loop that you could potentially do, but I'm so used to playing the Dargo where you just net so many treasures. But like you could technically do Ruthless Technomancer and have it in ETB and like basically sack a creature.
Yeah.
To make some treasures, but Inala would allow you to like make another copy. The other one could ETB sacking the original Ruthless Technomancer, and then you can pay the mana to recur the OG Technomancer doing the loop again to make mana. So if you had a creature that you could continuously sack to net enough treasures, I'm trying to think like how much
the Blood Pet.
No,
I mean that probably doesn't
you would need a big like a big power creature basically. So I mean, it's not a bad line. I mean, it would net you quite a few treasures. Like you would be able to sack it, make 2, and then the original, or like make 2 treasures from something that would come in, sack it, make 2 more. But I was just looking to see if there was a way for you to like net infinite mana from that. But
I'm not saying anything right away from it. I guess if they're doing all the wizard synergies, it makes sense to have gifts ungiven because they're already running like Reanimate, the Snapcaster Thassa's. So they have that package included in here for like a faster win without having to go through all the Spellseeker loop stuff. So
anything that's like standing out to you?
No, not really to me. I think it's just
Steel Enchantment,
Grixis that's going full send into the wizard plan here.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad, but like this is just, it looks like an Ala.
Yep,
I think that's cool.
All right, so congrats to Martin on 13th place. So now in 12th place, we have Thomas Nick on VV with 2 wins, 4 losses, and 0 draws.
Hey.
So kind of looking at this right away, I think this is similar to the list that we saw last week.
Yeah.
Where it was not on the traditional like combo lines that most people are becoming more familiar with VV, and it's just full send into the storm plan.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on 21 sorceries, 22 instances, 15 artifacts. I mean, you might as well say VV's the only creature in the deck at that point.
Yeah. What I've noticed is like these decks are very, very, very heavy into red. It looks like, and then they've got like some blue stuff. Like it's not completely off of blue, but they've got a ton of red, a ton of ways to make red. Lots of just like, let me dig some more, let me dig some more, like exile, 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 and like just continuing to find stuff and like ways to copy and clone stuff, and then also like eventually finding. It's almost like I don't know how to say it, but it's like almost like Secret Commander Rao. Like you go and you just continue to cast, dig, 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 dig. Eventually find your Rao, ultimate, like flip the Rao, ultimate the Rao, like exile 8 off the top, cast them for free. At that point, you're probably finding something that's gonna like allow you to start drawing a ton of cards with VV, or you've already got a way to draw cards with VV, and at that point, you're just storming off and you're just gonna win the game. So I mean, it's VV starting to, I think, get a little bit more figured out, but it's a pretty sick deck.
Yeah.
So like it's really cool to see this commander like make such a huge surge like into the cEDH scene.
Right, and with different builds for it too. Like we have this one, and then we've also seen the ones that's more of the Quicksilver Elemental or like Hullbreaker lines, doing the Valley Flood Caller stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is just, it's digging and digging, and it might wear heavy into the Rao plan at times when we need to, but we don't always have to get there, because the more we dig and then we just continue to cast more shit and draw more cards, we got player removal from VV triggers, basically, not just from the triggered from when you, every time you cast a non-creature spell, but you buff VV big enough, then it's going to kill someone.
Yeah.
You know,
I do think this 1,000-Year Storm is pretty neat. I don't know if like the other lists we covered. I know the Virtue of Courage was in the other list that we saw, but this 1,000-Year Storm is pretty sick. Like, that would get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that is notable to make sure that we're including, they are on the Witches mark.
Yes.
Yeah, to get around the One Ring, things like that. So I mean, I think that's going to be just a staple for VV, probably regardless of what build we see on it. And then bonus round is stupid.
That card's so dumb in this deck.
And we see the displacement wave again.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just continue storming.
Just a cool deck. Super cool.
Yep. So I ain't got nothing else on that, do you?
Nope.
All right. Congrats, Thomas, on 12th place. All right. In 11th place, we have, I'm going to say Tom Wagner with Thrasios Timna TNT with 2 wins and 4 losses.
Yep. Yeah. This just looks like the old version of TNT. Like, I know that there's been like 2 versions that have become popular. Like your just typical like infinite mana, like find a combo piece for the Thrasios and then make infinite mana win, or the other versions of the deck are playing more like Dog Thras, and they're doing like the cradle shenanigans and like manipulating it. So I mean, this just looks like the old like,
classic TNT.
Yeah,
that's all that it is. I think that, I mean, the few cards in here that I see that I think even from this list that kind of come in and out, they are opting for the Neoform and the Eldritch Evolution, and those don't always see play in these lists. But yeah, just very standard. We're just trying to resolve a Thassa's Oracle, and we're controlling the table until we get there. Doing the Hazels, Devoted Druid, or even the Swift Reconfiguration, Devoted Druid type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same thing, though, that I made a comment on in the other list. I'm looking at the instances. There's no Chain of Vapor again, so like not being able to bounce the Archivist or the Esper Sentinel or the Fairy Mastermind might be a little bit rough at times, but I think another combo that I'm not seeing that could, I mean, we have the Smothering Tithe, we have the Fairy Mastermind, we're on the Kinnan, but I'm not seeing Endurance.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that's a way of continuing to draw through your deck with that combo line, but the endurance is kind of is safer, especially if you're having to fight through like the One Ring,
Yeah.
things like that. And I'm also not seeing the Green Sun Zenith to kind of help protect that kind of win.
Oh yeah.
But
Like because it just continues to shuffle itself.
yeah, the only other notable like include that I do see is in the instances with the retraction helix, because a lot of the TNT lists, at least I felt like with the American build, opt to not include the retraction helix.
Yeah.
And that I could be wrong here. That could just be like the pilot's decision to do that here. But I think that if you have access to Valley Flood Color and you can do stuff on someone's turn, why not include it?
Yeah. I mean, you might as well, especially if it's another way to make infinite mana in the deck. Like, so I mean, I think that honestly, I mean, like I said, I don't have anything crazy to say about the list. It looks like your old school version of the TNT decks, like the ones that became popular after like the dockside bans and everything else. So
now I will say this, I think is an interesting exclude, and this is, I guess I'm kind of taking this from like other YouTubers. I think I want to say almost like Mons has mentioned it before, but in the European style of playing this deck, they've typically included Derevi and Emil.
Oh yeah,
and that's not included.
Okay,
in this list.
So this is a more like are you saying like more like westernized version of it?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, is what it seems like to me. Something that we would typically see here in the States or tournaments we go to. I feel like it's pretty close to that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think that makes sense. No, like I said, I think it's cool. It's definitely a cool list. I mean, it's Timna Thrasios. I don't really have a ton to say on it, just like I said, because it seems like what I'm used to from TNT, but they clearly did well with the deck, so I don't have anything bad to say, obviously.
Congrats, Tom, on 11th place. All right, in 10th place, we have, I'm going to say Yannick Botter, or Bader. I think it's Yannick Botter, though. On Zur the Enchanter with 2 wins and 4 losses. So with our resident Zur player here, I'm going to let him take it.
Dude, this list is so weird. Like, so there's a couple popular versions of Zur that you see. There's typically like Reanimator Zur. There's like an infinite mana like package Zur. There's like the 2 Ristics-ish build of Zur. And then you may occasionally see like a slightly more stacksy version that those aren't popping up as much anymore. Immediately seeing Teferi, I was thinking, oh, okay, like they're running Kitten. No Kitten. Seeing the Dimensional Infiltrator, it immediately let me know that it's an infinite mana outlet, so they're playing the infinite mana version of Zur. So I was thinking, oh, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna see something like Basalt Monolith or a Grim Monolith, and we are on the Basalt. It does look like that, but then there's no power artifact, which most people are gonna swing with Zur and go get the power artifact. So not opting to run that, which is interesting. I think they're just on the Basalt. I didn't see Grim unless I'm crazy.
I'm not saying a Rings of Brightheart.
Yeah, so nothing like that. Or they're on those sound effects. They're not on Ranger Captain. They're not on Esper Sentinel, which is very odd. They're on like Triska Decaphile, which makes sense. You can draw your deck out. They're on Labman. I was looking through some of the things. They're on this Pally. I don't know how to say this, but
do you know how that combo works in particular?
What, like the 2 mana untap with like the
Pillapala and the Grand Architect?
Yeah, where it reduces. Go ahead, you can explain it.
Basically, like how that one has worked in the past is like you generate infinite blue mana.
Yeah. So yeah, and then they've got a couple other things here too, where it's like cast an artifact spell, you investigate. Activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate, so that's going to make it even cheaper for the Pillapala. This one says like Wooburg, you untap it, look at the top card of your library, you may exile that card, which that plus the Grand Architect is also a way, because you can technically tap this down to make your colorless mana, and then if you can find a way to like make some mana, you can untap this thing to basically like go through your whole deck. They're running that one Start Your Engines commander that says if you draw a card, draw 2 instead. The one that's like the max speed, which is odd. So I mean, this deck is just very different than what is typically seen in Zur. They're on Ponder and Preordain, which I mean that stuff makes sense if they're running like a Born Upon the Wind. They're on Born. This list is odd. I'm not gonna lie. They're on Adnaz and they're playing the Angel's Grace, but then if you look at the enchantment package is what's throwing me off, because they're on like Mystic, Ristic, Necromancy. necropotence, necrodominant, stuff like that.
There are
Counterbalance.
necromancy with no like Abdel Adrian
Yeah, I mean,
type stuff.
yeah, there's nothing in there like that. They're on the ley line of anticipation, so you can like just immediately flash from the get go, which is cool. They're on counterbalance. This list is just weird, man. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I don't think that it's wrong. They're on Reliquary Tower, which is really weird. I think that like a lot of Zer players have talked about how no maximum hand size seems really, really good, but in reality, like most of the time, people aren't going to let you untap with all those cards in hand anyway. So like, you typically just opt not to play them a lot of the time.
I don't know if this is accurate or not, but the way I'm kind of viewing this list, this almost seems like a very aggressive turbo self-mill Esper pile, where you have some protection with like the Grand Abolisher, the Lavinia, the Voice of Victory. No Ranger Captain, but that kind of makes sense because your only one drop is Children. But I would still opt to put Ranger Captain in there because of Children of Corliss.
Yeah,
like it's like aggressively just trying to get down to as many cards as it possibly can without having to just completely focus on resolving like the Thoracle combo. Like obviously the Thoracle combo is the game plan, but they even have like this card here in the Sorcery's Helping Hand.
Yeah.
Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Oh, you milled your Thassa's away. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep going, and then we're going to cast that eventually protected.
Yeah.
And GG.
Same thing. You can swing with Zer and get the Necromancy to bring back the Thassa, or you can just hard cast the Thassa.
Right.
You can cast the Lab Man and then continue to draw your deck out. Like, I'm not saying that this is wrong. It's just very different than what I'm used to. Like, it on the surface looks like it's going to be infinite mana Zer. So I'm thinking like Power Artifact and the Basalt and everything like that, Grim Monolith, but it took it in a totally different direction, which I think is cool.
It still is.
It is, I know. I'm saying it's just a different version of the infinite mana that I'm used to.
Yeah. And I think this actually ends up being like one of the main combo pieces, this Dimensional Infiltrator here.
Yeah.
Where you just dump all that mana into that creature and then exile everyone's library, basically.
Yeah. Your typical infinite mana Thassa's Oracle, or your typical infinite mana Zer list are going to, like I said, it'll be like either Grim or Basalt. They'll have the power artifact so they can get it and fetch it with Zer. And then their outlet will typically be like the Dimensional Infiltrator. They'll normally also be on like Walking Ballista Heliod since they're already going that route.
Yeah.
So that way, if they do have Ballista, they can make it infinite and like kill everybody. And then they also, if they just have the Ballista and they don't have enough to do the infinite mana, but they can go get the Heliod, they can go that route. That's typically what you're going to see from an infinite mana Zer. This is very different. So I think it's cool. I'm not going to be playing this, but I think that it's cool. And I did actually, when I saw the deck, I posted it in the Zer Discord, so we're all going to talk about it and like kind of pick it apart.
Yeah.
But it's very different.
I want to see you play this version.
I think I'd fucking have a stroke. I'll try
This is like the Zer equivalent to Flubs.
I could try it, but I think I would have a stroke. I don't know how I'd mulligan in this hand.
But yeah.
But I mean, I could try it. We played out.
We'll see what happens.
I think it's cool. I do think it's cool. I'm not shitting on the deck. I think it's really dope, but it's very different than what I'm used to.
So, all right. Congratulations to Yannick in 10th place. So, in 9th place, we have Andre Schmalfield. What's so funny?
I didn't read. I looked at the name as you said it, and whenever it said Schmal, like
oh my god. You're ridiculous. All right, so we have Andre on VV with 2 wins and 4 losses. Let's check out this second VV list, making our top 16.
Very small creature package.
Very small creature package. I hope he sees this and just fucking obliterates us in the comments like everyone else does in our gameplay. But
to be fair, if he did obliterate us in the comments, I don't know that I would be able to read it.
You can translate it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is.
You dumbass.
It was me on my side. We do the podcast. You and fucking Andrew. He said, "Welcome back to the Castle Call Series podcast." I'm Andrew Schmalfield. I'm Chase. Fucking dudes.
So let's take a look at this list. It looks like a significantly less sorceries than what we saw in the first list that we saw for VV. But aside from that, there's a lot of It's a pretty similar list.
Yeah.
Like the main things that stand out to me, they're on the Niv Mizzet.
Yes.
That feels like the only creature that's different.
Yeah, I think it is the only creature it looks
that I
like
saw.
that's different.
I'm not seeing the Witch's Mark in this.
I think you're correct.
So that I think is really interesting that they're not including that one. But it kind of looks like they're trying to push more of like this mid-rangey kind of VV where maybe there's a little bit more control, and they're being a little bit more patient maybe at times with trying to drop it. I could be wrong. The Virtue of Courage is in here, but the 1,000-Year Storm is not.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too. There's very subtle differences between the two lists that we've seen. I don't remember seeing a Time Twister in the other list.
I agree. Was the other one on the One Ring? Do you know?
Maybe.
I couldn't remember.
I think so. I mean, it's still kind of going for the same stuff here as far as like just is it Storm type things, but with some differences here. I'm not seeing the bonus round.
The thing that's getting me is I feel like this deck's instant package is more geared towards like just make mana and then interact and do stuff like that. And then their sorcery package is where like they're all into like, hey, dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper. I feel like the other ones had more slots dedicated towards like just dig a little bit deeper in both instants and sorceries, and then also like with like the enchantments being able to like double up that stuff. Instead, it looks like they're just opting for like the typical like Niv Mizzet version, like things like that.
I feel like it's trying to do this thing where they're really trying to take their time and pivot. So like maybe they do have a few things in the sorcery and maybe some stuff in the instances where they can do a little bit of stormy stuff on their turn and then back off.
Yeah.
Go back to their turn, keep doing a little bit of stormy stuff, and then back off. And then just save all their interaction. Because, I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to trigger VV as far as the zero ability on other people's turns, but being able to interact more at the table and then still be able to trigger like the VV to deal damage and buff it, so that way you're going into your turn and you could continue storming and building from whatever you need to from there.
Well, I mean, it clearly paid off because like they obviously did really well and they placed a little bit higher with the deck. But I mean, it maybe that's what they're doing. Like they didn't want to be the first VV to go off at the table. Because I mean, I'm assuming that they're expecting to see more VVs at the table anyway. Maybe they were just like, we're going to play a little bit slower and just kind of slow roll for a sec. We'll see what happens. And then that gives the other VVs the opportunity to like try and go first, get stopped, and then maybe they like snuck in and like got the win. But I mean, the list still looks cool. It looks very similar to the other one, but it is like there are differences we've noticed. But I mean, I think that it's cool. Like we're finally starting to see VV hone in on like what it wants to be doing and like set almost more of a finalized list. But I think the list is really, really cool.
All right. So, I mean, other than that, I don't have anything else on this one. Do you?
No.
Congrats, Mr. Schmalfield, for your 9th place finish. In 8th place, we have, I'm going to say, Sean Yelsmark. That's an educated guess. On Yeva, Nature's Herald, with 3 wins and 3 losses.
Heck yeah.
So we mono green. That's interesting.
I'm curious. Like this is kind of neat, but I'm just so curious what I don't know. I think that like it's interesting how some of the other green decks are more geared toward like mono green decks are geared either towards lots of mana and net some cards, or like we're gonna stack the table out. But this one is just dedicated to like, hey, let's just flash a ton of stuff. Like we're gonna be able to do things on everybody's turn. But I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm assuming that this deck is going to win somewhat similarly to how like Leo's type of a deck would, like his mono green Selvala.
Yeah.
But there's definitely going to be some differences. Like I'm seeing things that look similar. Like the Kogla looks very similar. The Woodland Bellower, Teamer Sabertooth. You have the Ashaya. I guess not. They have the Wirewood Symbiote. So I mean that's obviously really, really good. They're on Talon Gates, being able to like continue to bounce it to like untap certain like elves you control to then net mana to then recast it, make infinite mana that way. Or they have Yisan in the 99. Is there
The
anything?
Wandering Bard.
Yeah, is there anything that's standing out to you? I know I'm just kind of ranting right now, but
Well, I'm trying to. So I do know this. So especially with the way Leo plays, a lot of these creatures that I'm looking at between like the Corian Ranger, the Scrib Ranger, this Wirewood Symbiote, like a lot of those things act as combo pieces at times.
yeah,
And then even being able to like do things with like the Woodland Bellower and being able to like um, tutor out a lot of your creatures from your deck. Because I think that that's really what this seems to be trying to do. It's so it looks like there are some like Staxy creatures in here, whether it's this Runic Armasaur, the Kogla, obviously, the Collector Oof that I saw in here, like maybe even. I'm trying to look. Like I think a main combo piece actually is this Dustwatch Recruiter, and that's what we're used to seeing with with Leo playing Silvala a lot of the times, being able to put like infinite activations of that on, and then like being able to continue like putting creatures on the battlefield and probably just like utilize that to get everything out and then just swing. I mean, this deck is running 46 creatures.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that it's kind of doing more stuff with that. I bet too, if you can't win that way, I bet there's a way of like making infinite mana being able to continuously bounce this Kogla to take advantage of the ETB fight ability,
Oh yeah,
and then dump everything in this Shaman of the Forgotten Ways
Yeah.
whenever, and just like, okay, you all don't have 8 creatures, your life totals become 0, GG. Like,
yeah,
so I'm assuming
Is-
that that's probably another combo in this.
yeah. Regardless, I think this is
Yeah.
cool. I don't want to take up too much time, but
Yeah.
I do think it's cool.
All right, congrats, Sean, on 8th place. All right, so in 7th place we have Li Gao on Tivit, Seller of Secrets, with
Hey.
3 wins and 3 losses.
A couple of Esper decks in the top so far, which is sick. They're on Golbez.
Are they?
They're on Golbez.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty cool because Tivit has the like whenever he comes in, he makes all the
tokens, and
That's
that's going to trigger 4
dope.
times. Okay, that's neat. That's spicy.
I like that. It's on the Grand Arbiter. They're on Rev. They're on the Kitten. Tataru Taru.
They're on the Teferi. And we've talked about that before. I think if you're playing Tivit and you already have the Displacer Kitten, you might as well include
Absolutely.
that Teferi in there.
Yeah. If you have a reason to play the Kitten, absolutely include the Teferi, in my opinion.
Sorceries, they're just trying to dig down to Type C.
No, this is honestly, just a good
Yeah.
good sorcery package, nothing crazy. The instances, same thing. They're on delay, Mana Drain, Limdal, Muddle, honestly, I think that, no, this just looks like a Tivit list.
Yeah.
Not saying that in a bad way. I don't want people to think that when I say that, like I'm saying, oh, like, the
No, I
next
mean
number is
it's
on,
a
but
good Tivit list. I do think the included Golbez is really neat
Yes,
here.
yeah.
I like it. What I like about that in particular, whenever they're running like Lotho, Tataru, Golbez, not necessarily the Grand Arbiter, but kind of having the Grand Arbiter and Rev there, all of those creatures being in the 99. I haven't seen it yet. Okay, he's not on it, so I kind of jumped the gun on that. But I think whenever you are running those creatures or you're running more legendaries with a really high CMC commander, you can make the argument of putting in Mox Amber a little bit more, but they've chosen not to run it in here. They're actually running 2 of the talismans, it looks like. Well, I guess just both talismans. No, there should be a third one. So they're not running the 3rd talisman within that.
Yeah, I think that most people choose not to run the Orzhov talisman. I think that
it's just a weaker color pair out of all of them. But I like that they're on the Imposter Mech.
I do too. I think that's
they're
cool.
on Graph Diggers and Curse Totem, which I mean, in Tivit in particular, they kind of act as asymmetrical stacks pieces. The only thing it does hurt is the Fairy Mastermind, but you don't care about that. You're more so worried about your opponent's drawing cards and you get an additional value out of it.
I feel like we're seeing more people go onto the Amphibian Downpour as well, which I think is pretty cool.
No Necropotence.
No Necro, no Mirror Maid. I'm telling you, it's kind of the same thing. I think cards like that right now ask you to convert immediately with them. So I feel like you are going to see a lot of decks start to come off of that, like come off the Adnaz, come off the Necro, because they're like one of the nice things about having access to red in with like those types of abilities is to be able to just say, hey, I'm going to take an extra turn immediately, and I'm going to get to have all my mana back.
Yeah.
Or saying, hey, I'm going to be able to Underworld Breach and have LED, and then just immediately I don't even have the mana problem.
Yeah.
I think in Esper it's a little bit harder to find that, like, I'm going to convert right now window. So it's a little bit tricky. I think that it makes sense to come off of those cards currently. I think that if we get some really good like mana acceleration in Esper, then they like make total sense. And it's like I said, I think that in a list like Zur, for instance, where you have combo pieces immediately, like there's synergies with the commander. Like one of the nice things about Zur is that you can Necro and still have access to all of your mana because you're only swinging with Zur. You cast him the turn before, things like that, or even like being able to just pick up your whole deck with add-ons, stuff like that makes sense. But in something like this, I think it makes sense to just go hard into the Tivit plan.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think this list is cool. I do think it's a little low on lands. I know people will be like 27 lands is low. I personally like 29 lands in my Esper list. I know that probably sounds insane, but I don't think that it's wrong. I think this list is really, really dope.
Well, I think you're wrong because they placed really high.
Oh, I agree. 100% agree.
So yeah, congrats on 7th place finish. So all right, in 6th place we have Igor Urzak on Shurikai Genesis Engine with 3 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw.
Yep. Immediately looking at this, like just seeing the whole breaker and that's it. I'm just gonna immediately assume they're on polymorph, and they are on polymorph.
Yep.
And people may not see it coming. The only problem is that if the polymorph does get countered, you're kind of blown out of your game plan. But it clearly did well.
I guess I'm just trying to think, because Shurikai is not one that we have seen pop up quite a bit in our area. I mean, I guess even if the polymorph were to get blown out, you're still able to get the whole breaker and things like that.
Yeah. Ideally what you want to do is just be able to like continue to, because Shurikai can tap the turn that he's coming in anyway.
Yeah.
So like you're just finding ways to like net infinite mana, and you'll create like a ton of pilots.
Yeah.
But yeah, you continue to like net infinite mana and like
make infinite.
draw 2 cards every single time that you do that, and like filter through your entire deck.
I think it's Trouble in Pairs. They're playing Trouble in Pairs in the 99.
Ah, you're right. Oh, Blind Obedience. What am I talking about? Yeah, you just draw through your whole deck, find the Blind Obedience. You can like extort, kill everybody that way.
And at least that gets around the One Ring and things like that. So.
Absolutely. There's also something else. I feel like there was another card in here that filters through with that. I can't remember what it is, but I don't think it matters. I don't think I know what I'm talking about.
What exactly is Tezzeret trying to grab here? Let me see that. Let me take a look.
Probably.
Oh, probably the Proteus Staff. I think it's just trying to grab the Proteus Staff as another way to polymorph here.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. That's pretty good.
They're on Dramatic. Yep. They have Isorev in there for infinite mana.
Oh, that's really cool. The Monument to Endurance, that's another way to combo with the Shurikai. Every time you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, create a treasure token. Each opponent loses 3 life.
Not every. I don't think it's every time you discard. It's just whenever. So
it says whenever you discard, choose one that hasn't been chosen. This turn.
But once all 3 have been chosen.
I know, but I'm saying like with the Hull Breaker, you can bounce this back and then reset it, do the loop again.
Yeah.
So like it's just another combo piece that's in there.
So yeah, interesting list. I kind of agree with you. I think the polymorph builds, whether it's like something like this or like Urza, just don't seem to do it at times as much. But hey, they went 3-1-1 and made 6th place. So maybe we're wrong.
Yeah, we're dumb.
We're dumb. We're just from Kentucky. So congrats on your 6th place finish, Igor. All right. In 5th place, we have Lynn Proul. Is how I'm going to pronounce that. I'm going to assume that's what it is. I did it earlier. But yeah, Lynn on Krark Thrasios, which is really interesting. But yeah, with 3 wins and 3 losses.
Dang. Krark decks are always weird.
Yeah, this one in particular is kind of weird because this is a pairing you don't really see.
Yeah. I don't necessarily see it. That's the thing that's weird is like a lot of the decks that you see with Krark, they're looking to double and like triple up on their Krarks. there's not a lot of clones in this deck. Like, there's no clones in the deck, actually.
No clones. So nothing like the Sakashimas that we see or like the Spark Double or anything like that. They are running the Harmonic Prodigy to be able to double down on the triggers, at least. So, I mean, that's there. We're trying to make a bunch of treasures. And I guess dump them into Thrasios is all that I'm kind of saying.
That makes sense. Just, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
But then I guess we just burn out the table with the Urbrask. Huh.
Am I
feel like I'm missing something.
Crazy?
What?
Nothing. I was just looking at the fact that they're on Molten Dupe, Twin Flame.
But no Dualcaster Mage? Yeah. No, you're not crazy. It's just not there.
Yeah. I guess it's just to make extra Karks. Because if you activate this, then
you wouldn't be able to make extra Karks because of Legend Rule.
Fuck. You're right. What is this for? Oh, I'm guessing this is okay, so then what would this be to do? Like double up your Storm Kilns or like double up your Harmonic Prodigies, like stuff like that?
And that's kind of what it seems like.
And then just kill everybody that way?
There's got to be something we're missing here.
I don't know. I saw Urbrask, and then obviously you've got other stuff like Grape Shot, which that's a win con.
This Ley Line of Resonance, that's interesting to include here. Being able to target multiple things with like on single target stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So then if you do like where you have these spells like the Crimson Wisp, the Expedites, the Renegade Tactics, like you're able to like, if you have that down, you're able to get like multiple, not necessarily you're making multiple copies of those on top of like, I guess doing like the Veyran stuff and some of these other things that trigger when you make copies like the Storm Killing Artist. So like you're getting extra card draws that way, extra triggers off of those things. I guess eventually you're just gonna Grape Shot the table and kill everyone that way. But I mean, that's literally the only thing I can kind of think of. I know there is a line where is it? Like they're not on a will effect, but the line between Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, and it's Ancestral. No, it's not Ancestral anymore. There was a card I was looking at. Never mind. I'm stupid. That card's not even in here, I don't think. There's a card I was thinking of that is technically like a mini will effect for 1 red, but they're not on that card either.
I'm so confused.
I'm confused on this list as well. So
they did well though. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. I mean, they probably just fucked a bunch of people over by drawing a bunch of cards and then just Grape Shotting the table. That's what I want to assume happened, and then just like they breach and continue Grape Shotting the table.
I guess that makes sense.
And doing shit that way. But hey, if you all happen to check this list out, and let us know what we're missing in the comments, and like and subscribe. Other than that, I don't know what else to talk about for this deck.
I have nothing else about this deck.
Help us figure it out. But one way or another, congratulations on your 5th place finish, Lynn. All right. In 4th place, so we are finally at our top 4 here. We have Dennis Bloom on Rogsai with 3 wins, 4 losses, and 0 draws. This is Rogsai doing Rogsai things.
Yeah, I like the inclusion of Snapcaster Mage. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I do like Snapcaster here. And let me double check. Are they on the Reanimate? Not on Reanimate. That means they are still on Gifts. Interesting indeed. But I mean, I guess they have Yawgmoth's Will if they really wanted to
That's fair.
include that in the pile. So yeah. Being able to run maybe some kind of gifts pile there, like with the Yawg's Will, Thassa's, Demonic Tainted, however you want to do that. That's a way of getting there. Very low on the creatures, like you already pointed out. I don't think this has been a card that's been included a lot in Rogsai builds, the Will of Jeskai.
Yeah.
Unless that's like a new or more recent inclusion, then that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me, I feel like, on it.
Oh, that's cool. Just a potential another wheel, and then also like giving the stuff in your graveyard flashback. That's sick.
Is it will for everyone? Yeah.
Each player may discard their hand and draw 5 cards.
Okay.
Which is cool. I think that's neat. Yeah. This list is kind of cool. I like it.
Yep. No, they're on both Necrodominance and Necropotence here.
I think that makes sense, especially for a deck like this.
And 24 lands. Yep. Wrong side. Wrong side doing wrong side things.
Rogza,
Yep.
congrats.
All right. In third place, it's either Ratchet Beck or Rashid Beck. I want to say it's probably the second one,
Yeah.
or it's neither one of them. So
Again, we're from Kentucky.
we're from Kentucky.
We're doing our best.
We're just a couple simple guys from Kentucky. But anyway,
I said it earlier. I'm just glad you.
so
said the
this
names.
person in third place on Blue Farm with 4 wins and 3 losses. Hell yeah, it is.
This looks like Blue Farm.
All right, this is the next. This is Blue Farm doing Blue Farm things.
Do you see anything that's standing out off the top of your head? They're on the one wheel, which I think is typical of a Blue Farm list. They are on typical instance.
Yeah, like nothing stands out too much. Like some excludes, they're not on the Bergie. Maybe an include, they are on a Toxic Deluge, which I think that's a card that kind of comes in and out at times. But if we are a little bit, I think we've seen some lists here recently a little bit higher on their creatures, and I think that's whenever we see the Toxic come out. We're on a pretty average, like 13 to 14 creatures, excluding our commanders here, so it makes sense to kind of have Toxic there in like Kingdom matchups and things like that. So I think that's fair. Looking at the instances, I'm not seeing a chain. No, chain's there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't see anything else that's standing out in the instance.
We've started seeing this flare of duplication starting to pop up from time to time, so that's starting to make waves a little bit. Only on one talisman, which I think if you're going to pick a talisman, that's the better one to be on. Low artifact count for including the Mox Opal, but
I guess you technically still have like Esper Sentinel, and then you have like Facebreaker to make treasures and stuff like that. So maybe that.
Maybe. Enchantments seem fine. Lands seem fine. Nothing stands out.
The only thing I'm curious is if they're on Forbidden Orchard. Nope.
No, but they're also not on Starting Town either.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Which, now I will say this. They're on a semi-low artifact count, and they're on Spire of Industry.
Again, I just think that being able to make a couple extra treasures, like with their creatures, like Lotho, Esper Sentinel is a artifact itself. Being able to make some treasures off of the Facebreaker, making treasures off of Ragavan. So I mean, you technically have other ways to do it. So I don't think it's like completely crazy. Even Mockingbird potentially coming in and cloning an Esper Sentinel. Yeah. Again, I don't think that it's necessarily the smartest thing, but it's also like I don't think it's bad. Right. I think it's just Blue Farm.
Yep. Well, congrats on third place. All right, in second place, this name will be easier to pronounce because there is no name. It is Only Farms. So Only Farms got second place in this event on another Blue Farm list with 4 wins and 3 losses.
It looks like they're just opting to run Bergie instead of the Facebreaker from what I'm seeing. They are not on Deluge again from what I'm also seeing. Mm-hmm. It looks like their wheel of choice is Windfall rather than the Wheel of Fortune. Most of the instants look, I think, the same. They might be on one additional.
They're not on Adnos.
Okay. Yeah, they are. Well,
are they? Oh, never mind.
It was just farther down.
I'm just stupid.
No, you're good. It was just farther down. No. This doesn't have it in alphabetical order, which seems really.
I'm just stupid. Weird. It's all based off CMC.
Oh,
the order is based off CMC.
Interesting. Never mind. That's actually kind of neat. Never mind. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that's probably another reason why we're missing on things. But
from Kentucky. They're on 2 talismans.
They're on 2 talismans.
Yep. And
I don't remember if the other list was on Rain of Filth or not, but that's something we have been seeing pop up in the Blue Farm list a lot more here.
Well, the nice thing is that we can compare the list.
Oh, look at you coming in prepared.
Oh, shit.
He fucked it up.
Shut up. You already said it. 10 card difference, it looks like.
Yep. So the other list was not on Rain of Filth, but this list is. I think another notable include is going to be that Copy Enchantment, that Cavern of Souls, and the Starting Town. Yeah. I think people have been watching our channel then and just naming Cubit on Cavern.
You have to, bro. I do think it is kind of neat. Like this list kind of looks like your typical more like Grixis Turbo type list.
Yeah.
Whereas this one seems like little heavier on the red. Like they're on the Jessica's Will, Wheel of Fortune, Facebreaker, the Flare. They're on Snapback. They're on Archivist, One Ring. They're on Morphic Pull and Spire. So maybe this person is onto something. Maybe they cut the Spire for the starting town because they were thinking like you. They were like, hey, this is kind of low on the artifacts. But yeah, I like the inclusion of Copy Enchantment personally.
Yep.
I think that it's easier to cast than something like Mirror Maid if you're really just wanting the enchantment. I like the flexibility of Mirror Maid being able to get both.
Yeah.
But it's also something that I can tutor up out of the zone. So I think that Copy Enchantment makes a ton of sense here.
Yep.
But yeah, I think this is cool.
That's cool. All right. Congrats, Only Farms, on second place here. All right. So our last deck of the evening. So in first place, we have Patrick Eckert on another Tivit list.
Esper winning a tournament.
With 5 wins and 2 losses.
There was several Esper decks in this top 16. You had the Tivits, you had the Rafine, you had the Zer. Like, that's kind of cool.
Okay, so before you go through and do your wizardry with comparing the list, 2 things stand out right away to me. They have Urza in the 99 and they have Hullbreaker Horror in here. Yeah. That other list, I know for a fact, did not have either one of those creatures. But I think they kind of make sense.
I think so.
Like, especially if you just generate infinite mana and then like you start flickering the Tivit, like if you had to, that's kind of cool. But I mean, other than that, having Urza in the 99 as a backup way of dumping that mana and being able to do something with it, I think is kind of neat.
Yeah, they said no to Golbez.
No Golbez.
Sad. I think that's cool.
Now I wonder if they're gonna run. I'm just checking. I'm just looking.
What are we looking for?
No Mox Amber again.
No Mamber. Oh yeah,
no Mamber.
Yeah. Never mind. I was thinking Mobile.
Yep. So do you want to go ahead and compare?
Yeah, let's compare. Let's see what they look like. I think the biggest change is probably going to be in the creature package.
I think so too, from what I can tell.
Let's see. 16
cards. No, we were fucking wrong.
Wait, it was a rough glance.
So let's kind of take a look at this. So I didn't even notice the other list wasn't on Valley Floodcaller.
I didn't either.
But they are on Valley Retraction Helix. So they are, it looks like they're doing an Esper Shell where they can go into the Tivit plan, but they're not as heavy into the Tivit plan. And they're making it more of the Esper good value shell type thing here.
You know what card I'm not happy about?
Dispel?
No.
Instead of Miscast? Get that out of here. Why did they get first?
I don't know.
Oh, fuck Trouble in Paris. But, but no, like, okay, so there's quite a few differences. So they're on, it really kind of looks like they are on 2 or 3 additional win lines on this, including the blind obedience there in order to get around things that prevent damage and like the One Ring.
Especially because if somebody's got protection and then now you're taking extra turns with the time sieve, you can't do your Tivit like beat face plan.
Yeah.
So I mean that definitely makes sense. Retraction Helix is pretty cool. Like it just an include with the Valley Floodcaller. Because I mean that's actually kind of dope. Being able to that might be dope. Just like doing some kind of crazy like infinite mana. If you can like continue, like if you can generate infinite mana and then potentially start to like cast Tivit over and over and over, like bounce it and recast it over and over, that'd be cool.
No, and I agree with you on that. I think the issue with being able to continue bouncing is once you've stopped your loop with the Retraction Helix, you won't be able to do the untap if you cast Tivit. So you're going to have to like keep something in your hand, untap it, be able to cast the Tivit. Like, so you got to be a little bit careful on doing something like that. I think if anything, it's just that between the Valley Floodcaller and the Hullbreaker, it's like you're trying to bounce and generate the mana and then probably just dump it into the Urzas. So that way you have something within the 99 as far as like you can utilize that as a win con without having to go directly into the Tivit plan.
Well, even if you don't have a mana positive rock, like if you just have something that's like neutral, then you could technically, like if you had this on board and you just continue to like bounce it and flicker it, if you had like a Displacer Kitten, you can constantly bounce stuff. So I think that's kind of neat too. yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is like this list was on they were on Rev. It looked like they were just kind of harder into like going more artifacty, like just artifacts, stuff like that. Like a little higher on the artifact count, more like artifact ETBs, really relying on potentially Golbez. A couple extra draw engines with the Archivist and Fairy Mastermind. I do think that Urza's kind of neat in this list, being able to like potentially again make infinite mana. Oh yeah, because if you can make infinite mana with the Valley of Floodcaller and the Retraction Helix, then technically you can filter it through the Urza.
Yeah,
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and not even that, having Urza there in the 99 and making it to where maybe even some of your artifact pieces like Curse Totem and Grafdigger's Cage, you can now tap them down for blue and be able to like have extra mana. That way, whenever you are ready to cast Tivit, if Urza's already down, you have enough mana to be able to get there, and then probably have enough ways of protecting it too.
Oh, dude, that's really good too, because even if you say, like, let's say you say treasure and your opponents say, no, you get clues, you're like, doesn't matter, they tap for mana anyway.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool. That's a neat little thing. I didn't think of that. That's dope.
So that's definitely a really cool interaction with that.
Yeah.
The only one that doesn't really matter on is like the Taru trigger, but it is what it is on that one.
Still, that's dope. That's a cool list.
Yep. So yeah, congrats to Patrick on first place with Tivit.
So what are you thinking, my friend? What stood out during this tournament?
Hey, I'm just saying, at the beginning of the year, I said Tivit was going to be pretty high up there, and we see 2 Tivits in this top 16. Actually, we see 2 Tivits in the top 8.
That's also fair.
So,
but we do see a Zer in the top 16.
And we see a Zer right there, which I don't really know what that Zer player is doing, but hey, he got there. Well, actually, we have a lot of Esper in this top, between the Rafine, the Zer, and 2 Tivits there. I'm not going to really count the blue farm because they're kind of their own separate thing, but I mean, there's 4 Esper shells in this top 16 with a lot of really interesting like commanders that are placing here. Like, you don't, obviously, like, we still don't know what this Grenzo is trying to do. You don't typically see a lot of Zer. We both know that, but I think we've started to see it pop up a little bit more at tournaments. Not a lot of people have been playing Anala, it seems like, here recently. This Krark Thrasios list is interesting. So again, if you all can figure out what that deck is trying to do, let us know in the comments. Shurikai, like, it's probably one of the better Azorius decks for sure, but like, again, another commander we don't see pop up quite a bit. So I mean, this was a cool tournament to cover.
I do think we're going to start seeing a little more Shurikai, just because I think that the new rule that they put in place for like all of the legends, I think that like vehicles are fresh on people's minds, so people are probably re-exploring that space. I mean, Shurikai could already be your commander,
right?
But I think that people are going to probably explore that space just a little bit more and say, hey, like, what can this deck actually do? But I do think that it's one of the strongest like Azorius decks for sure. I think it's really cool to see Esper doing well. I think that it kind of makes sense though, because right now we're starting to see this pivot into more turbo type decks. So I feel like what's happening right now is like people are trying to win fast, they're getting stopped, or like somebody is getting stopped, and then these control-y decks are starting to be able to go a little bit later into the game and potentially like just accrue so much value that it's hard for everybody else to keep up, and then they're winning that way. So I mean, clearly that's not going to be like totally true. Like blue farms and like Rogthras are still, or Rogside.
I mean, even a couple of these like Esper lists were not necessarily like full on control, like that Zer list, and then same thing with the Rafine. Like they're going very like tempo aggro with their creatures, or like the Zer, how I made the comment there of like trying to be really aggressive with like the self-mill type stuff. Like it, you know, I think that is just their way of trying to race everything else in the format.
Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe instead of Esper playing control, maybe they are pivoting into a little bit more early mid-range. Does that make sense? Like they're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, so they're not necessarily being the first player to get stopped, but they're being able to be like the next player to present win.
Right.
So that's kind of neat.
Yep. So, I mean, all in all, like, this is cool. Like I said earlier, like, this is a cool tournament to cover. We don't, you know, especially since I don't think we've necessarily done a tournament just yet outside of the U.S. So this might be something we continue to do, is try to find more of these. This just happened to be the one that stood out the most from this past weekend because it had a shit ton of players. But I think that also makes sense because it's 4th of July weekend for us. So there were still quite a few. Like there were some other tournaments we could have done that had like 60, 70, 80 to 90 people in it. But this one had a lot of unique decks and had a lot of people at it. And I think that's what it kind of came down to for this one.
For sure.
So you have anything else? Any other final thoughts on?
I definitely want to check out Tiv a little more.
Tiv a little bit more.
But as an Esper guy. Cool. I just think that it's cool to see, like I said, Esper. But congrats to everybody.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
I'm excited to see. I'm just excited to see where the meta continues to go.
Yep.
We're seeing so much diversity. I'm actually really happy with the way things are going. I think that, and I know that this is probably going to stir up like old wounds, but like I think that a lot of people, whenever the bans initially happened, people were like, "Oh, well, it just makes the best decks better," and like that's all you're going to see is like the best things. But I really think that getting rid of some of those cards has created this new shift in the way that people are like looking at deck building. Mm-hmm. Like certain ways of deck building were just so simple that now people are getting very creative with the decks that they're building.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yep, it's definitely cool. And speaking of creative decks that people are building, I'm kind of, this is off topic from this, but as we're wrapping things up, as a reminder to everyone that is following the channel or within the nearby area, we are going to be at Pool Priority this coming weekend at Columbia, Tennessee at Game Night. So I'm looking forward to see what kind of decks are going to be in the meta for that. And if you see this video that before the tournament that day and you've been following us for a little bit or you're new to the channel, come say hi to us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope we see Dardu.
I hope we see Hebrew Hercules there. Please.
That'd be sick.
Teach me the ways of Dardu. But other than that, I don't think you have anything else. I don't have anything else. If you're going to be there this weekend, come hang out with us for a little bit. And, as always, if we've missed anything on this, let us know in the comments. If you like some of these decks that we covered or, there were some things that maybe we didn't discuss, like I just said, let us know down there. Or just as much as people have been doing here recently on our gameplay videos, if you just want to talk shit, I guess that's welcome too at times. We're tough. I promise. I'm not.
Fuck.
Huh?
I said fuck.
Fuck them. But other than that, if you like what we're doing on the channel, like, subscribe, and as always,
go play some cEDH. Oh, I gotta fucking redo that. That was so
in.
Voice crack of the century.
Nope, I'm done. I'm walking away.
Go play some cEDH. We'll just leave all that in. Sounded like a shop. Go play cEDH. Please. Please go play cEDH.